So I'm going to talk about the Arapaho version of the Bates battle. Well, I don't know the year. The Arapahos and the Cheyennes were subdued. That means their guns were taken away, and they were going to have a Sundance in central Wyoming, on the east end of the Copper Mountains.
By the early 1870s, a clear alliance had emerged among three tribes in the Black Hills region. That would be the Lakota, the Cheyenne, and the Arapaho. All three of these tribes had a very strong warrior culture that was ingrained with their sense of spirituality. And during the Indian Wars, they allied against two pro-U.S. tribes, the Crow and the Shoshone, that were separated from them geographically by the Bighorn Mountains, a range that was considered sacred to all tribes in the Great Plains. And so in 1874, in July, these three tribes decided to launch a raid over the top of these mountains. And the Battle of Bates kind of happens around this time. Basically, the U.S. military saw the need to send out troops to support the Shoshone because the Shoshone were supporting us. They gave us scouts. Along with the Crows, they had their own regiment in the Indian War where they would go and they would help our officers in the field. Well, because of a dispute between the three tribes as they crossed up over the mountains, the Arapaho were saying, this is just about rustling cattle and getting what is rightfully ours back. We're starving. And the apparently Lakota and Cheyenne were both saying this is about a war that we want to start with the Shoshone, and it's about the plunders of war. Well, the Arapaho didn't like this gung-ho mentality, so they kind of peeled off and started their own camp. They encamped in a little valley along that area around the Wind River Reservation, and they just refrained. But apparently, according to Kenny, and we'll interview him shortly, they had with them a peace pipe that has been around since the dawn of creation. It was the original peace pipe that was on the back of the turtle at the Earth's creation. So that basically aided them in overcoming Bates's forces.
Well, they had two arbors. The Cheyennes had one and the Arapahos had one. And maybe two in the Cheyennes, maybe three in the Arapaho. Not many. Today they're 90, 100 in the arbor. Then it was just one or two. And usually when they have a Sundance, well, every time they have a Sundance, they have a feast. But the people in the Sundance, they suffer. 4 days, no food, no water. But everybody else, they eat right in front of them and smack their lips and everything else like that. Well, the game was sparse, wasn't very much, especially in that area. So they were told, the young guys were told, take your bow and arrow and go around, see what you can pick up. They sent north, south, east, west. And these one boys came south of Bates battlefield, and they saw a milk cow. They got it, killed it, loaded it up, took it back to their camp. Well, a couple of days later, the next day, the farmer saw his milk cow, guts, I guess, but oh, he wanted satisfaction. So he went to land, or what it was, Fort Brown, and went into the commanding officer, and I think it was Bates, and he told him what happened. He wanted satisfaction. He wanted the troops to go in there and tear them up. And the commanding officer at the time said, no, can't spare the time or the people or the resources. We just can't do it. Well, he was really upset, so he walked outside. On the steps of the office was a handful of Shoshones, scouts. And they told him in broken English that they would help him, but they wanted the horses. So he went back in there and said, these Shoshones said they'd help me. All right. He convinced the commanding officer to first light to go out.
They went to Camp Brown and they got the general to agree to send 2 officers with their 60 soldiers and 20 or so Shoshone scouts. Now, these 2 officers, these were Officer Bates and Officer Young, and they set off up the No Wood Creek to find the encampment. It actually took several days. They were planning on arriving a few days earlier, but apparently they had received some notice, the Arapaho did, and had retreated further up the valley. Otherwise, they could have just retreated a little bit back further east because they were going to head back to the Black Hills anyway. They had no desire to participate in a war against the Shoshones. They just wanted to rustle cattle, and it seemed that their 2 tribal alliances, they were kind of committing to war, and the Arapaho simply wanted to have a Sundance, ask for guidance spiritually, and then turn back. And as they came up, apparently they were told that there were going to be between 40 and 112 houses, or teepees, or encampments here, and that it should be very easy to take control of. So Bates sends his forces up over the ridge, and Lieutenant Young circles around behind and sends his forces down into the ridge, and they began firing into the Arapaho encampment. And according to white sources, the Arapaho, in a matter of minutes, managed to flee up to the top of the hill and then fire back down on them. Now, according to the Arapaho, they had no weapons, and the bullets that these soldiers were feeling and being hit by were their own bullets. And according to Bates, he says that there were about 5 casualties on his side, or 5 deaths and maybe 10 casualties, and he said that they had killed about 100 Arapaho. But the Arapaho say they suffered 10 casualties and no deaths. And now this discrepancy is very big. You can imagine the Arapaho kind of have a vested interest in whipping up the spirit of their people and fighting the settlers by saying they've killed this many of our people, but for the whole time they've just been saying, no, you showed up and you only managed to wound a few of us and you lost. And the fact that they were able to get on top of that bluff within a matter of minutes is pretty unrealistic, I would say, unless they already had an encampment up there, which they didn't, unless they already had a supply of guns, which according to the Arapaho, they didn't. So who knows what happened at this battle, but according to the Arapaho, it was a miracle that it protected them. And the miracle always boils down to the original peace pipe, the story of which is incredibly important and crucial to this battle unfolding in Arapaho mythology and spirituality.
And so they went straight east, and then they had scouts in front of them, located the Sundance grounds, and the Arapahoes, the sun was coming up, and the Cheyenne were praying. The Arapahoes had their sacred pipe, and the 4 old men were on the bluff praying. Well, cavalry come in, guns blazing, shooting, and the Arapaho, the 4 old men were praying, take the bad back where it came from. And bullets were going out of their weapons and killing them. Well, it didn't take long until Bates seen that he was losing men and to put a stop to this, so he retreated quickly. And I don't know if the guy ever got a payment for a milk cow or not, but they took the horses. Well, they say 7,000, might have been 700. I don't think anybody really knows. They took them around the Owl Creeks, across the river, up, clear to Crowheart, and probably dispersed them against the other Shoshones up there.
I really need to find somebody more qualified to tell the story of the original peace pipe than I am, because understanding the original peace pipe, the only peace pipe, is crucial to understanding the Arapaho version of events at Bates's battle, as well as their general worldview. So I hope I don't butcher this story, but I'll do my best to tell it. As the story goes, when the Earth was first created, the world was an endless ocean with no land in sight. And in this ocean swam the original turtle. And on the back of the turtle there was a medicine bundle, and there was the original peace pipe, the first peace pipe and the only peace pipe. And as the time went on, the turtle realized, if I don't find land soon, I am going to die. I'm going to die of exhaustion, and my body will be dispersed into the ocean like atoms. Well, eventually, it cries. It cries out to the heavens, and the Creator sends down 4 ducks. And the number 4 is incredibly sacred in Arapaho mythology. It represents the seasons, the stages of life, and the corners of the world. And they say, "Why are you crying?" And the turtle says, "If I don't find land soon, I'm going to die." And the ducks say, "Don't worry, we'll go look for it." And they fly in 4 directions, and they're unable to find anything, so they come back and they tell the turtle. And again the turtle cries out, and it shakes the heavens, and God sends down fish. And the fish come up from underneath the turtle, and they say, "We found ground." And they bring up mud, and they start building the continents in the world. And on this, they build an altar, a sacred altar at the first Sundance to their medicine bundle and to their sacred pipe. And it has been within the Arapaho Nation ever since. They presented the original pipe to the first man. And at every Sundance, you can still encounter this pipe. You can still touch it. You can still pray to it. You can still learn from it, because every Arapaho warrior and religious leader has been associated or has seen this pipe. They see a woman carrying a medicine bundle walking up on the butte, and they start shooting at her. But what they don't realize is that this bundle contains the first peace pipe, the only peace pipe. And because of this, the bullets go right through her. They don't harm her, and she looks down on them. Well, seeing this are the 4 men that are on the hill overlooking the whole camp, the elders, the 4 people that are kind of spiritually more wise. They have 4 wise elders for their tribe. And they said, "Let the evil return from whence it came." And the bullets begin turning around like boomerangs and hitting Bates's own men. Bates left with his tail between his legs, and he lost the battle decisively.
And the Arapahoes and the Cheyennes were there, no weapons, few horses, and nothing.
And the bullets went right back and hit the cavalry.
Yeah, they lost the cavalry with their own bullets. And a friend of mine who lived right there, just a little town, it was called, his name was Tom Griggs, he's passed away. He told me that his town was named Griggs, Wyoming, and he went in there as a kid and found guns and rifles, and he took his son. He said his son has them to this day, those rifles. And so why would they? If that happened, why would they leave their rifles? You know, the Arapahoes and Cheyenne didn't have any rifles, but he found several rifles. And I personally think there's some merit to that story. I really do.